This is the Masterbuilt Gravity Series 800, and one of the most common questions that I get about this grill is the temperature. I've had the Masterbuilt Gravity Series 560 for 2 years now, and I learned the hard way about rotating my food and the differences in temperature across the grates. So today, I'm gonna show you a visual experiment and how you can determine the hot and cold spots on your grill, and we're gonna put this Masterbuilt Gravity Series 800 to the test. The results that you're about to see are something that you're not gonna wanna miss if you're looking at or you already own a Masterbuilt Gravity Series. Now let's get into it. I recall a couple summers ago making 3 racks of baby back ribs and not rotating them around the grill. Now I could only put 2 racks on the lowest level on the main grates on my 560, and I had to put 1 rack above. What I noticed is all 3 racks, even though they were almost identical in size and weight, cooked at different rates. I had 1 rack that was a little overcooked, I had 1 rack that was a little behind, and I had 1 rack that was perfect right in between. Now on that cook, I understood at that point how important it is to know the temperature differences across the grill. What I wish I would have done was rotated my food, but hey, you win some, you lose some. Now when I'm doing multiple racks of ribs, or I'm doing a lot of food like that, chicken wings, pork belly burn ends, anything that consumes a lot of space within the grill, I rotate it. But in order to understand the temperature differences in the grill, there's a couple easy tests that you can do at home. They're very visual, that you can see exactly what is going on within your grill. So today, I'm gonna be doing a biscuit test. I'm gonna be placing 16 biscuits throughout the inside of this grill, and we're gonna see exactly how done they are and they get. What you want to see is the temperature differences based off of the color or the doneness of those biscuits. Now, ideally, you would want all 16 biscuits to be the exact same color, but they're not going to be. There's always going to be some hot spots in your grill or smoker. So we're doing this to determine which ones are darker, which ones are lighter, which ones are perfect, and where are those spots where the temperature isn't even. So today we're gonna do that biscuit test, but on top of that, I'm gonna run 2 of my ambient air probes from my Thermoworks Signals, and I'm gonna place them strategically in the grill, and I'm gonna leave them there the entire time. If you're interested in getting the Thermoworks Signals or any other Thermoworks products, I'd appreciate it if you check that link down in the description. The cool thing about the Signals is it's going to chart the temperatures over time and give me a physical graph that I'll be able to show you. So what I want to do is get this grill fired up, get the temperature probes in. Once the grill is up to temperature, which today we're going to be running at 250 degrees. Now you can do this test at any temperature you desire. I smoke a lot. I don't grill as much on this grill or most of my grills as much as I smoke. So I want to run this at temperatures that I run my grill at. You should do the same. With that Signals, I'm gonna monitor the temperature. I'm gonna see throughout the biscuit test, how did the temperatures perform? Were they stable? Were they even? Were they 250? Were they above? Were they below? And how does it differentiate from one side of the grill to the other? On top of that, I'm going to let this thing run for several hours and see if, the disturbances, like when we take the biscuits off, how quickly does the grill recover? How far does it overshoot or undershoot the set point? We're gonna be able to see that visually by looking at that graph and over some extended period of time. So on top of the biscuit test, we're gonna be running the Signals, and we're gonna let this thing run for several hours so that you can see the performance and what the grill is capable of maintaining and how well it does. I think I've talked enough. Let's get this grill loaded up, fired up, and get this test started. So the hopper is lit. It is time to get everything closed up and get the grill turned on. So you're gonna have to close your ash clean out door. You're gonna have to close the hopper lid. But while you're over here, pull out these air slides. It's gonna allow air to flow from the fan into the hopper and then into the grill. These can conveniently hang right up front, like so. You come over to the grill, you hit the power button. You'll hear that classic beep, turns on, you hit the temperature button. Like I said, we're gonna be running today's test at 250 degrees. I hit the temperature button and the fan will kick on, like it just has. We're gonna give this about 5 to 10 minutes until the controller itself says it's 250 degrees, and then we're gonna get started. So the grill says it's 250, 255 degrees, kind of bouncing right around there. My Thermoworks Signals is telling me that it's 245 on the left and 248 on the right, and it's been sitting there pretty stable. So it's time to get the biscuits on. Like I said, I've got 16 Pillsbury biscuits. We're gonna place them all around the grill, including the middle and upper shelf, because I know a lot of you ask me all the time or say, I wish you would have added biscuits to those shelves. So we're gonna do that today. So let's get this thing opened up. As you can see, I've got my probe on the left and the right, kind of left and center, right and center. And let me get these biscuits in there. This is my favorite part. You never know when these are gonna open. Ooh, one wasn't too bad. And I'm gonna start with the top rack, and we're just gonna do 3 biscuits centered in the rack and to the left, to the right, and to the center. We're gonna do the same on the middle rack. And finish that one up here. We're gonna start working on that bottom rack. Now remember, we're running the grill today for this test at 250 degrees, not because that's the best temperature that, for you to run this test, but more because that's where I do a lot of my cooking, in that 225 to 275 degree Fahrenheit range. And so I wanna test it for the way that I use it. You do this test whatever way you run your grill. You can see there's the configuration right there. We're gonna get this grill closed, and we're gonna see what happens to these biscuits and what happens to that temperature there on the main grate. See ya in a bit. All right, these biscuits have been in for just a little bit over an hour. I think we're right around about an hour and 5 minutes. We're gonna open it up and we're gonna take them out. Curious to see what's going on in here. Now I'm gonna take them off in the order that they're put on, starting with the top rack, and I'm going to put these like so. And so far, everything's looking pretty even. So a little bit more heat here on the center. Okay, so we have the biscuits off. Let's take a look at them. We'll get this closed because we're gonna continue the temperature test with that Signals. Let's take a look at these biscuits. So these biscuits, they honestly look pretty even. A lot of times when I've done these tests on various smokers, I will tell you right now that the corners, the center, and the back, whatever, you'll see some really done biscuits. Now granted, I could have pushed these a little further until some of them burned, but you can kind of see the differences right here. This was the very top shelf. These 3 biscuits, honestly, look really even. Those look good. So that means at the top of the grill, yes, they are lighter than some of the others. The temperature differences aren't that drastic from left to right. You can see that because they're even. So then we get down to that middle rack. For the most part, they're almost exactly the same, except this center biscuit right here, you can tell that there is a little bit warmer right in the middle. Now, as we make our way through the grill, you'll notice that the color gets a little different from left to right. So here is the furthest left in the back. If you look at that versus the back right, you can see that there is a little bit of a difference, but it's not that drastic. And then the center looks pretty even. Now, if we look at the actual center of the grill, we've got the center right and the center left. They do look a little bit different. And when you're looking at those charts on the Thermoworks Signals graph that I'm going to show you later on, you'll see that the left side of the grill, for the most part, rides cooler than the right. Even though the grill itself says it's 250 degrees and it's bouncing plus or minus 5 degrees, not a huge deal. But the actual temperature that we're reading with the Thermoworks Signals is a little bit different. And we'll talk about that more later. You're not going to want to miss those results either. But you can see there on the middle of the bottom grate, there is a slight difference. Now this is the front of the grill, this is the front left, this is the front right. And you can see the temperature transition from left to right and how it gets a little bit hotter. And looking at the bottom grate itself, you can see that the left side of the grill is cooler than the right side. And in some instances, it's like just a little bit off the right wall. Maybe that's because of airflow and things like that, or the first opening there on that manifold. You can see that these look to be the most done. So that right side, maybe 6 to 8 inches off, appears to be the hotter points on that bottom grate. So what I encourage you to do is to do this test on your pit. It doesn't matter if it's a gas grill, a pellet grill, a smoker, an offset smoker, a drum smoker, whatever the case may be. If you're gonna be cooking a lot of meat this summer, you want it to turn out the best that you possibly can make it. So you want to eliminate anything like this, like temperature differences, so that your food turns out perfect. Now, you saw the visual, and you saw that really, truly, there aren't huge differences from left to right, from front to back. There are slight differences, but nothing ridiculous. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna let this thing continue to run at 250. I'm not gonna open the lid. I'm not gonna do anything, but I'm gonna keep that signals running and we're gonna keep building that chart. That way we can see over a longer stretch of time with no interferences, how does this grill react? So stick around, we're gonna let this thing run and I'll see you in a bit. You saw the biscuits. You saw how pretty even for the most part that they turned out, which is better than the 560 did and better than some of the other grills that I've done the biscuit test on. Now, I let this grill run for the next 2 hours. The lid was never opened. Now, remember, there's no protein, there's no food, there's no nothing in here. It's an empty grill. And that actually is going to see a little bit more variance than if we had some protein in there. But for the sake of this test, we let it run for the next 2 hours. And so if I pull up the Thermoworks Signals app, we're gonna take a look and see exactly what it looks like. So let's dive on into it. Now you can see here on the graph that there were 2 major dips. And those dips in particular were when I opened the lid. The very first dip on the far left is when I opened the lid and put the biscuits on. And you can see that it recovered very quickly. And then you see very little oscillation and the temperature just climbs. Then you see a little bit more oscillation and then another dip. And that other dip was about an hour later, and that's when I pulled the biscuits off. And I hurried up at that time and got the lid closed and we talked about the biscuits. And then from there on out, you can see over the course of the next 2 hours, the temperature just oscillating back and forth. Now, one thing that you'll notice that the yellow chart, which is the left, and the blue is the right, you'll notice that they were pretty equidistant from each other the entire time, sitting right around that 25-degree difference. And if you remember where the probes were placed, they were only about a foot apart. What that tells me, and if you look at the numbers as I kind of scroll through them, in many cases, if you averaged those numbers, they were just under 250 or right around that 250-degree mark, which tells me that Masterbuilt is likely using an offset in their controller, that way that they are looking at the center of the grill. Now, with the design of this and the design of many grills, heat has to come from one place. In a smoker, it's typically off to the side or directly in the center if it's a pellet grill. And what that means is you are going to have hot spots. You're going to have a hotter location just because of the way the heat transfers and flows within. Now, maybe you could put some tuning plates in here. Maybe you can do, like I tried before, to put a convection fan in to always keep the air flowing. It didn't really work. But when I look at this and I look at the numbers and I see that it is very steady, I think Masterbuilt did a great job. Now I know a couple years back, there were people reporting that their Masterbuilt Gravity Series 560 had 70, 80 degree temperature differences. I'm not seeing this, and you can see my results live right here on the chart. I'm not getting those crazy temperature swings. In a system, in a process environment, you're going to have oscillation. Now, could they maybe lessen their deadband a little bit? Yes, they probably could, which would reduce the size of those oscillations. Maybe they could do something with the fan where instead of going completely off, maybe it just pulses. That would actually probably smooth things out a little bit as well. But it runs pretty dang well. You get a good, clean smoke out of it, and you get great flavor. I really don't think you can go wrong with it, and this temperature test today proves that not only is it a good running grill, they've also made strides to improve their product, which is always something that you want to see from companies like this. You want to see where they feel they made a mistake or they feel that they could do something better and they do something about it, which is what I think they did with the Masterbuilt Gravity Series 800 and likely the 1050 as well. So if you're thinking about getting a Masterbuilt Gravity Series or you already have one, do yourself a favor. Do yourself a temperature test, do the biscuit test, find out where those hot spots are because it's gonna result in the best possible food that you can make. And when it comes to that food, if you're looking for recipes, I've got everything here at Anderson Smoke Show. I'll see you in the next video. But if you're looking for more information on the Masterbuilt Gravity Series, check out this overview right here.